The first two words are simple, I understand. At first they may seem ordinary, almost too simple to carry any real power. But in the psychology of human attraction, feeling understood is one of the deepest emotional desires a person can experience. Most people spend their lives trying to explain themselves, defend their feelings, and convince others that their emotions make sense. When a woman speaks to you about something important and you immediately interrupt her with advice, judgment, or a story about yourself, you may miss the real opportunity. Often, she does not need you to solve everything. She wants to know whether you are truly present enough to understand what she is trying to express. But these words only become powerful when they are honest. You cannot manufacture connection by memorizing phrases and repeating them at the right moment. People are more perceptive than you think. They can often sense when your attention is genuine and when you are simply performing. Before saying, I understand, listen carefully. Notice her words, her tone, and the emotions beneath the words. Sometimes what a person says is only the surface. Behind frustration may be disappointment. Behind anger may be hurt. Behind silence may be uncertainty. The man who learns to understand these hidden emotions develops something far more valuable than a clever line: emotional intelligence. There is also a deeper reason these words can create connection. When you make someone feel understood, you create a moment of psychological comfort. She no longer feels as if she has to fight for your attention or constantly explain herself. This does not mean agreeing with everything she says. Understanding and agreement are not the same thing. You can calmly say that you see her perspective while still having your own opinion. In fact, this balance is important. Attraction does not grow when you become a person with no thoughts of your own. It grows more naturally when you can listen deeply while remaining grounded in your own identity. A confident person does not fear another person's emotions. He does not panic when the conversation becomes serious. And he does not rush to escape discomfort with jokes or empty compliments. He stays present, he listens, he allows the other person to speak. And when he says, I understand, those words carry weight because his behavior has already proven them. The lesson is not to use these words as a manipulation technique. The real lesson is to become the kind of person who understands before reacting, listens before speaking, and connects before trying to impress. The second two words are, tell me. On the surface, they are simple, but when spoken with genuine curiosity, they can completely change the energy of a conversation. Most people enter an interaction thinking about themselves. They wonder how they look, whether they sound interesting, what story they should tell, and how they can make the other person like them. This creates tension because their attention is focused inward. But the moment you become sincerely curious about another person, the conversation becomes less about performance and more about discovery. You stop trying to force attraction and begin allowing a real connection to develop naturally. When a woman shares an opinion, an experience, or a dream, saying, tell me, can communicate that you are interested in more than the surface. You are inviting her to continue without demanding anything from her, but the words must match your behavior. If you ask her to tell you more and then interrupt, look at your phone, or immediately turn the conversation back toward yourself, the invitation means nothing. Real listening requires patience. Let her finish her thoughts. Pay attention to the details. Remember something she mentioned earlier. Respond to what she actually said rather than to what you were expecting her to say. This kind of curiosity can be attractive because it makes an interaction feel alive. Instead of repeating predictable questions like an interview, you follow the natural direction of the conversation. If she mentions something she is passionate about, explore it. If she tells a story that clearly affected her, become curious about what it meant to her. The goal is not to collect information or discover some secret formula for making her attracted to you. The goal is to understand the person standing in front of you. Genuine curiosity creates a sense of presence, and presence is becoming increasingly rare in a world where everyone is distracted. At the same time, do not confuse interest with chasing. There is a difference between inviting someone to speak and desperately trying to keep them talking because you are afraid of silence. Confidence allows space. You can say, "Tell me," and then remain relaxed. You do not need to fill every quiet moment or prove your value through constant conversation. Sometimes silence itself creates room for thought and reflection. The deeper psychological lesson is that people are often drawn toward those who make them feel comfortable expressing themselves. Yet true connection must always go both ways. Share your own thoughts, keep your standards, and remain authentic. "Tell me" is powerful not because it is a magic phrase, but because it represents curiosity, patience, attention, and the confidence to let another person reveal who she truly is. Words alone never create attraction. This is one of the most important principles to understand before you begin searching for the perfect phrase to say to any woman. People are often attracted not simply to the words you choose, but to the meaning, emotion, confidence, and behavior behind those words. You could memorize every famous line about attraction and still create no real connection if your body language communicates insecurity, desperation, or dishonesty. A person may forget the exact words you used, but they often remember how your presence made them feel. That is where the deeper psychology begins. When you say, "I understand," the real question is whether your actions show that you understand. When you say, "Tell me," the real question is whether you actually listen after she begins speaking. Words without behavior quickly become empty. This is why authenticity has such influence. You do not need to become a different person, pretend to have endless confidence, or perform some carefully designed character. The more you try to manufacture an image, the more difficult it becomes to remain natural. Real confidence is quieter. It allows you to speak honestly without constantly calculating how every sentence will affect the other person. Attraction is also influenced by consistency. Imagine someone who gives you intense attention one day, but ignores everything you say the next. The uncertainty may create curiosity, but it does not necessarily create trust or meaningful connection. In contrast, when your words and behavior consistently match, people learn what they can expect from you. If you say you respect someone, demonstrate respect. If you say you are interested, show attention without becoming possessive. If you claim to be confident, remain calm when the conversation does not go exactly as planned. There is another mistake many people make. They focus so much on saying the right thing that they stop noticing the person in front of them. Conversation becomes a strategy game. Every compliment is calculated, every question has a hidden purpose, and every silence feels like failure. But genuine connection cannot be fully controlled. You can influence the atmosphere through your character, but you cannot force another person to feel something they do not feel. Accepting this fact actually makes you more relaxed. You no longer need every interaction to end in a particular result. The strongest communication happens when intention and expression are aligned. Your tone should support your words. Your attention should support your questions. Your behavior should support your promises. Attraction psychology is not about finding a magical sentence that gives you power over another person. It is about becoming emotionally aware enough to understand that your presence speaks continuously. Before you search for better words, develop better listening, stronger self-respect, calmer confidence, and genuine curiosity. Then even simple words can carry a depth that no memorized line can imitate. One of the greatest mistakes people make in attraction is trying too hard to impress. The moment you enter a conversation believing that you must prove your intelligence, success, humor, confidence, or value, you create unnecessary pressure for yourself. Suddenly, every sentence feels like a test. You begin asking, "Was that interesting enough? Did she like that joke? Should I tell her about my achievements?" This anxious focus turns a natural interaction into a performance. Ironically, the more desperately you try to appear impressive, the more likely you are to lose the relaxed confidence that makes you interesting in the first place. A more powerful approach is to stop treating every conversation as an audition. You do not need to convince every woman that you are extraordinary. You need to become comfortable enough with yourself that you can allow your real personality to appear. This does not mean becoming passive or boring. It means speaking because you have something genuine to say, rather than speaking simply because you are afraid of silence. It means sharing your experiences without turning every story into an advertisement for yourself. True confidence does not constantly announce its value. It allows others to discover it through consistent behavior. When you are no longer obsessed with impressing someone, you become more observant. Instead of mentally rehearsing your next line, you notice her reactions. You hear what she actually says. You can respond naturally because your mind is present in the moment rather than trapped inside your own insecurity. This presence changes the entire atmosphere. People generally feel more comfortable around someone who is relaxed and attentive than around someone who is visibly struggling to create a particular impression. There is also strength in accepting that not everyone will be attracted to you. This is where genuine self-respect becomes important. If your confidence depends entirely on another person's reaction, you give away your emotional control. You become excessively pleased when you receive attention and excessively anxious when you do not. A grounded person can enjoy attraction without making it the foundation of his identity. He can show interest without begging for approval. He can accept rejection without becoming bitter or losing his dignity. The paradox is simple. When you stop desperately chasing validation, you often become easier to connect with. Your conversations become lighter because there is less hidden pressure behind every word. You can be playful without forcing humor, mysterious without pretending to be distant, and confident without trying to dominate. The goal is not to become indifferent or act like you do not care. Genuine interest is valuable. The difference is between expressing interest freely and needing a specific response to feel worthy. Attraction grows more naturally when two people can discover each other without one person constantly performing, proving, or chasing the approval of the other. One of the most important truths about attraction is that respect creates a stronger foundation than manipulation. Many people search for psychological tricks, secret phrases, and strategies that promise control over another person's emotions. They want to know exactly what to say, when to disappear, how long to wait before replying, or which words will make someone obsessed with them. But the moment your entire interaction becomes a plan to control another person, you stop building a genuine connection. You may create temporary curiosity, confusion, or emotional intensity, but those things are not the same as real attraction, trust, or respect. This is especially important when talking to a woman. No sentence, no technique, and no psychological strategy can guarantee that she will feel attracted to you. Every person has their own experiences, preferences, boundaries, and emotions. Trying to force a particular outcome usually creates pressure, and pressure can quickly destroy the natural energy of a conversation. A stronger mindset is to focus on what you can actually control: your character, your communication, your emotional discipline, and the way you treat the other person. The words "I understand" and "tell me" can be meaningful because they represent respect when they are used sincerely. "I understand" communicates that you are willing to consider her perspective. "Tell me" communicates that you are interested enough to listen. Neither phrase should be used like a button that produces attraction. Their value comes from the intention behind them. If you pretend to understand simply to gain her trust, your behavior will eventually expose the truth. If you ask her to open up only because you want information you can use to influence her, the connection becomes dishonest from the beginning. Real confidence does not need manipulation because confidence can tolerate uncertainty. You can be interested in someone without knowing whether she will feel the same way. You can express attraction without demanding a reward for being honest. You can accept a positive response without becoming possessive. And you can accept a negative response without becoming angry or disrespectful. This emotional stability is far more powerful than playing calculated games because it shows that your sense of worth is not completely controlled by another person's attention. Respect also means understanding boundaries. If a woman seems uncomfortable, uninterested, or clearly says no, confidence is not about pushing harder. It is about recognizing reality and maintaining your dignity. Many people confuse persistence with strength, but there are moments when walking away calmly shows greater self-control than continuing to chase. Attraction should never require pressure. A meaningful connection develops through mutual interest, voluntary communication, and the freedom for both people to choose. At the same time, respecting someone else does not mean abandoning yourself. You do not have to agree with everything she says, hide your opinions, or become endlessly available. Healthy attraction requires individuality. You should be able to listen to her perspective while still having your own. You should be able to show kindness while maintaining standards. You should be able to care about her feelings without making yourself responsible for every emotion she experiences. This balance is where mature attraction begins. Manipulation usually comes from fear of rejection, fear of being ignored, fear that being authentic will not be enough. But when you stop trying to control every outcome, you become freer. You can speak honestly, you can listen deeply, you can show interest without desperation. You can walk away from situations that do not respect you while still treating the other person with dignity. The real lesson is not that certain words have magical power over women. The lesson is that your words become more powerful when they reflect genuine character. Respect makes attention meaningful. Honesty makes confidence believable. Emotional discipline makes attraction healthier. When you approach a woman as a person to understand rather than a person to control, you give the interaction a chance to become something real. And even when attraction does not develop, you still leave the conversation with your integrity, self-respect, and emotional strength intact. The deepest power behind the words "I understand" and "tell me" is not found in the words themselves. It is found in the emotional intelligence they represent. Anyone can memorize a phrase. Anyone can repeat a line they heard in a video. But emotional intelligence cannot be faked for long because it appears in the way you respond when things do not go according to your expectations. It appears when someone disagrees with you, when a conversation becomes uncomfortable, when you feel rejected, or when you do not receive the attention you wanted. In those moments, your character speaks louder than every carefully chosen word. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. Before you can understand another person, you must learn to understand yourself. What happens inside you when a woman does not reply quickly? Do you become anxious and send multiple messages? Do you become angry and suddenly pretend that you never cared? Do you start changing your personality because you fear that the real version of you is not enough? These reactions can reveal how much of your emotional state depends on external validation. The more you understand your own fears, insecurities, and patterns, the less likely you are to project them onto another person. A confident man is not someone who never feels nervous. He is someone who does not allow nervousness to control every decision. He can feel attraction without immediately losing his sense of balance. He can enjoy attention without becoming dependent on it. He can experience rejection without turning it into an attack on his entire identity. This emotional stability creates a calm presence. You do not have to announce your confidence. People can often sense it in the way you handle uncertainty, silence, disagreement, and disappointment. The words "I understand" require more than hearing. They require empathy. Empathy means trying to see a situation from another person's perspective without necessarily surrendering your own perspective. If a woman tells you about a difficult experience, emotional intelligence allows you to listen without immediately trying to win an argument or prove that your experience was harder. You do not need to compete with every emotion. Sometimes the strongest response is to remain present and let the other person feel heard. This does not mean becoming her therapist or carrying every problem she has. It simply means knowing the difference between a moment that requires your opinion and a moment that requires your attention. The words "tell me" represent another form of intelligence, genuine curiosity. Curious people are difficult to fake because real curiosity makes you listen for answers instead of waiting for your opportunity to speak. You notice details. You ask meaningful questions when appropriate. You remember what matters to the other person, but curiosity must also respect privacy. You are inviting someone to share, not demanding access to every part of their life. If she does not want to discuss something, confidence allows you to accept that boundary without becoming suspicious or offended. There is also great power in knowing when not to speak. Many people believe that attraction depends on constantly keeping the conversation exciting. They rush to fill every silence because silence makes them uncomfortable. But silence can reveal your level of confidence. When you are comfortable with yourself, you do not panic because there is a brief pause. You allow the moment to breathe. You think before responding. You understand that connection is not created by the number of words spoken, but by the quality of attention behind them. Emotional intelligence also protects you from becoming manipulative. When you understand human psychology, you gain knowledge that can be used in two very different ways. You can use it to exploit insecurities, create confusion, and chase control, or you can use it to communicate more clearly and understand people more deeply. The second path requires greater strength because manipulation often offers the illusion of control. But genuine connection requires vulnerability. It requires accepting that you cannot command another person to choose you, trust you, or feel attracted to you. This acceptance is not weakness, it is freedom. When you stop believing that you must control every outcome, you become more natural. You no longer need to calculate every message, perform confidence, or search endlessly for the perfect phrase. You can show interest while accepting uncertainty. You can communicate your intentions while respecting hers. You can remain curious without becoming intrusive. You can be emotionally open without abandoning your self-respect. The most attractive version of confidence is not loud, aggressive, or obsessed with domination. It is grounded. It knows its own value without demanding constant proof. It listens without becoming weak, speaks without becoming desperate, and walks away when respect is absent. This is the deeper lesson behind those two simple phrases. I understand shows the strength to see beyond yourself. Tell me shows the confidence to let another person reveal themselves without pressure. Together, they represent a powerful form of communication built on presence, patience, empathy, curiosity, and self-control. When these qualities become part of your character, you no longer need to search for magical words. Your ordinary words gain weight because your behavior supports them. Your attention feels different because it is genuine. Your confidence feels different because it does not depend on controlling another person. And whether attraction develops or not, you remain the same: calm, respectful, self-aware, and in control of your own actions. That is the psychology behind meaningful attraction, not the power to manipulate someone's feelings, but the ability to create connection while remaining authentic, emotionally intelligent, and true to yourself.